Let's Talk, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-the-air forum, community forum, believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation on Let's Talk by calling 415-663-8492. Or if you're into tweeting, I guess, no tweeting today. But
no
there's
tweeting today.
There's another line you can call as well, 8317.
Yeah, 415-663-8492 or 8317. And I'm Paul Raffel.
I'm Robin Carpenter.
Oh.
I'm
guess who's working the board? That would be me.
Mike for. You know, I'm so used to, with our new board, we used to have colors by the mics.
Well.
And I guess I'm more of a visual person than looking for the number.
I just can't
Yes.
so say that again.
I'm Robin Carpenter.
Yes, and there's also...
And yes, this is Shelley Rugg.
Lovely. Stephen is still off in...
Where was he? Croatia? Yeah.
And yes, everyone's off traveling.
Speaking of beautiful water, I've seen some great pictures that Steve has taken.
Lovely over there in the islands. Anyway, so our topic today is water. I think we all know what water is. It's definitely, we can't live without it for very long. I think, 3 days, 4 days?
3 or 4 days, I think it is.
That's it.
Air's the only other thing we need more.
And yet, what we do with the water we have is slightly alarming. Basically everyone
uses what they want.
Goes to the bathroom. Let's just say that every day. So that's a start. But really, what spurred this topic this week was, as usual, an article, and this time it was about a new invention at Berkeley, done by Berkeley, a sponge-like metal compound that harvests water molecules out of the atmosphere at night and then releases it as a liquid upon exposure to sunlight the next day, and it's all solar powered. It's a metal organic framework, and it's it's
hard to imagine.
It's basically a sponge-like compound that looks like sand to the naked eye and is extremely dense. Depending on the materials involved, the metal organic framework can be constructed to harvest different chemicals from industrial emissions to natural gas, and they found that a framework that includes zirconium will capture water out of the air at night, store it, and release it during the daytime upon exposure to the heat of sunlight. No electricity needed.
Where does it release it to?
Into wherever you want it to go, right? Into pipes.
A receptacle of some kind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is like the high-tech answer, a high-tech version of a fog catcher, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And they've tested it in arid environments, and it works there. It's because it's actually taking molecular water out of the air, and all air has water, even in dry environments. There's still water there. So they notice that these frameworks exhibit a unique uptake of water. A highly cooperative phenomenon seems to dominate the uptake and result in sharp water permeation at very low relative humidity. So it's interesting.
Wow.
They're talking about if they get an infusion of cash, if somebody actually takes this on an industrial scale, it could be every house could have one of these things.
I'm imagining that it could be formed into some really cool-looking sculpture.
I'm
you could have,
so.
In your yard that attaches to your plumbing system.
Yeah, it's a metal, on a microscopic level, it's a metal organic framework. You can see there are pictures of it. And this is on newsdeeply.com, and it's the water part of their website.
Yeah, I'd like to see the pictures.
Yeah, there's a there's an interview with one of the researchers at Berkeley, the leader of the research. So that got me thinking about water.
And the first thing that pops into my mind is, what would the impact be? Let's say
Exactly.
a city is using that. Then you're going to, I'm guessing at night, lower the natural humidity at night.
Well, this is
yeah.
the thing.
And how far out would that impact? Because I know just from, from the world of agriculture, certain plants and things need certain levels of humidity, heat, to perform correctly or to grow correctly. So
Yeah, it's like the yin yang of everything we do.
yes, there's going to be a consequence. What would that be? Maybe in a desert-like area, it would be pretty minimal. But it's a fascinating concept because it sounds like once you've got that material made, it
just keeps doing its
It
thing.
just does its thing.
Huh.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It doesn't require energy input except for manufacturing it, of
Yeah.
course. But, that's always the drawback, I know. But they're really hopeful that, it's fairly cheap to make, apparently.
I would say, just thinking in terms of, say, our area, like a rural area where there's a lot of agriculture or ranching, that would be a great way to just provide the water for, say, drinking ponds or things like that.
Well, and I could imagine on a huge scale in the Central Valley, which is going to be one of the topics, what's happening in the Central Valley, where they're pumping down the aquifers so much that the whole valley is sinking.
Yes.
In places up to 30 feet or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the whole place is gradually sinking because they're pumping out the aquifers. But if you could recharge aquifers with something like this,
It would be interesting.
Wow.
The other thing is the water... does it have other things in it, or does it only
Like
take
how
the water?
filtered is
how
it?
filtered is it? Is it
it's
just the water molecules?
molecular water.
Then that would be another amazing thing, is that you're not going to have, because the other problem that we're having in agriculture is that our water tables, or for any of us drinking water, have now been contaminated with glyphosate and other not great
Organic and
chemicals.
inorganic chemicals, yes.
Yes.
Lots of phosphates and all that's
Because
working to
even
kill off make the dead zones in your native Gulf down there.
We actually have the largest dead zones this year, and we have a dead zone in Mobile Bay, which we've never had before.
Wow.
And people down there have been very concerned about it for years and wanting to have something done about the inputs that are being done all along the Mississippi River up through the country, because that's where it's coming from. So there's a real awareness, even though it's a very politically conservative group of people. There's been an awareness all my life of that there's a serious issue with how we're treating our waters. Because you see that
how
there.
we're treating our land too.
Yeah, exactly.
And that brought me to, you talk about Central Valley, and then you think about you go to other places. The Rio Grande is going to be the headwaters of the Rio Grande are probably going to dry out at the border of Colorado this year.
Wow. Is that just from usage of the water, or is it just how does that happen?
It's an over-appropriated system, they say.
That's a nice
Seldom
way
has
to put it.
You
the
mean
Rio Grande
Nestle
flowed
took
so
it?
Well, I'm not sure who's upstream of this valley, but there's there's the San Luis Valley, which is big growing land in Colorado, and it's right on the Rio Grande. It's the Rio Grande Valley. Here we are. The headwaters tributary curling around the Great Sand Dunes National Park has dried up. The main stem of the Rio Grande probably won't make it out of Colorado to New Mexico this summer.
Wow.
They calculate, let alone Texas and Mexico. Remember those?
Well, that's going to make the wall easier to build.
So then you start thinking it's over-appropriated. We're going to be out of water in 10 days. The pressure hitting them reflects a widening water squeeze that has revealed the precariousness of life across the southwestern U.S. No kidding. Where prolonged dry times and climate change increasingly force adaptation. Exceptionally low snow in the Rocky Mountain region this year at 37% of normal is playing out in water volumes less than 20% of the 120-year average.
I mean, that's
and so in the valley, instead of snow melt and all the other stuff, the same thing that replenishes the groundwater in the Central Valley, in the San Joaquin Valley, they're pumping down aquifers and going deeper and deeper and deeper, trying to find more aquifers. And
it's interesting because in organic farming, there is nothing in the regulations about the water you use. In terms of, let's just say you're watering here in Marin, our water, depending on where you are, has fluoride and chloramines in it, and so that's
there's no
factor.
Limits on
there's no way to really use the water of usually what your water system is. If it's Marin Municipal Water District or now what we have here in West Marin, we do not have fluoride in our water.
No. Very clean water, I understand.
It is very clean.
And we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please? And please, keep it clean.
I will try and keep it clean.
Thank you, sir.
Topics about water. This is David. This is a quick call to correct something that Shelley just mentioned a few minutes ago, which is that, Shelley, you said so if they took the water out of, say, a desert area, that there would be not much impact. And actually, the impact would be greater there. If you think about a place that has, say, 100 gallons of water, and you take a couple of gallons out of that, you've still got 95 gallons of water. If you take a place that has 5 gallons of water, say 5% humidity, like in the desert, and you take 1% or 2% out of that, then all the creatures that are built to survive on very, very, very little water, and you take a percentage of that water away, and they are left with considerably less, percentage-wise, much less. And that actually, I'm not sure whether it actually happened or was slated to happen with a gold mine in one of the broad desert valleys in the Mojave Desert. And they were going to just drain the water out because they figured nobody needed it. Well, all those critters that survive on a teaspoon of water a year, and you take a little teeny bit of that away, and it really upsets the ecology.
Right, and so if this was to be implemented on a broad scale, it would be hard to deny there'd be some kind of impact.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's always an impact.
Right.
There's always an impact.
Yes, there is. The question is it a tolerable one or not?
Right.
All right, I've got to go. Carry on.
Thank you for calling in.
Thank you, David.
Bye.
Yes, so please do call in 415-663-8492 if you have any comments, if you want to correct anything we said, and we are open to everything. And the number is 415-663-8492 or 8317, and you'll hear a little buzzy noise as I put you in the system. Just hang on till you hear me say, "You're on the air," and then please turn down your radio and please watch your language. You will be live on the air. Speaking of draining things, court rejects environmentalists' lawsuit to drain Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. I don't know how you stand on that.
I haven't heard about this.
A California appeals court has rejected a long-running attempt by environmentalists to, that catch-all phrase.
Yes.
I'm sure all environmentalists are for this, right? To drain Hetch Hetchy Reservoir in Yosemite, a linchpin of the water supply for 2.6 million Bay Area residents.
And return it to its original state.
I don't know. The non-profit is Restore Hetch Hetchy. Oh, yeah, that's a big dam. An environmental group based in Berkeley, that the reservoir, built in 1923, violates California's constitution. The group said that the reservoir and its dam violate a provision of the Constitution that requires water to be diverted in a reasonable way.
Well, that's
because there are other places to store Hetch Hetchy's water that aren't in a national park. So they say that there are other reservoirs that could fill in for Hetch Hetchy. Literally fill in for Hetch Hetchy.
So is there point that you can't have it in a national park, or is there point that Hetch Hetchy should be restored because of its natural beauty before? Or
what are they trying to achieve?
Yeah, if it's just like we don't want anything happening in a national park that's not absolutely from nature.
Well, they say, and a great name, by the way, the executive director of Restore Hetch Hetchy, Spreck Rosecrans. What a great name. We are disappointed but undaunted. No other national park has been so damaged by development. Restore Hetch Hetchy remains committed to restoring Yosemite's Hetch Hetchy Valley while ensuring that not one drop of water supply is lost. So, it's played a crucial role in supplying water to San Francisco, the Bay Area. Draining it is a terrible idea, said City Attorney Dennis Herrera. That would jeopardize the water needs of Bay Area families. It serves 4 Bay Area counties.
So the question, the people who want those environmentalists that want to drain it, where do they propose the water would be diverted to so that it could be used by the city dwellers?
So they approved construction of it in 1913, 300 feet of water. At the time, San Francisco leaders argued they needed a more reliable water source following fires that burned large sections of the city. Okay. Twice the capacity. If it were drained, water could still be taken from the Tuolumne River and stored in other reservoirs instead, among them Don Pedro nearby and several of the Hetch Hetchy system's reservoirs in the Bay Area.
Existing reservoirs. They're not suggesting that something new be
They're just saying you can trap the water from the Tuolumne River in existing reservoirs further downstream and drain the Hetch Hetchy Dam. And been endorsed by Harrison Ford. Oh, well.
So the opposition doesn't like it. Why?
And former Yosemite National Park superintendents, 4 of them, have said it's a good idea to drain it. Well, because it'll be
the cost. I'm guessing
the cost, and it will require thinking about where water comes from instead of just having Hetch Hetchy there. You'd have to rebuild the infrastructure. Yeah.
But I mean, my feeling would be is if this environmental group can help secure the funding, work with governmental agencies, and if they can help enact the solution, but it would be asking for this area to take on an enormous project with enormous expense. And I just asked myself, well, could that energy and money be better used on other issues, that we have around water? But if they can come up with the money and get the willpower and agencies to come together.
Isn't there something about heavy metals when you demolish dams as well, that you disturb the sediments that have been there for, in that case, 100 years? Then
I'm guessing there would be. Because just heavy metals into the water from the air.
Yeah. And all that gold up there, all that arsenic from the gold rush.
Yes.
Processing the gold. Yeah. But anyway, I was just also wondering what conservation measured, because, of course, conservation is the big thing. And
I guess I feel like in an instance like that, we're going to have so much more, or we're starting to experience so many more challenges around water that would those resources be better spent on some other issues around water. But then again, if they can come together and get, in the Dry Creek Valley, there were some massive projects done on riparian zone restoration. And the people that wanted to do it got governmental agencies and grants, and they got the money together. The county didn't pay for it. No, they made that happen and worked with private owners of the land. So I think anytime people can come up with an idea like that they want, and then they are also willing to enact the solution, I'm all for that.
I'm guessing there wouldn't be any federal money for any of this these days.
Probably not.
Especially if environmentalists want
and you would have to do a CEQA in terms of thinking about this. It's one thing, the romantic notion of returning the valley to its earlier state, but we have to be realistic that, first of all, the climate is very different than it was 100 years ago. As you said, Paul, the sediments, other things that would be being released, we don't know what it will return to.
So you were talking about conservation, like what do we do at home to...
Well, That would be interesting for me. Although, primarily, or not primarily, I guess, in town here, there's, as you said, it's North Marin.
Is it North Bay Water
North
District?
Marin Water
North
District.
Marin Water District.
And over there, it's, most places around here are off wells or springs. Mm-hmm. I've been fortunate enough in... I think every habitation I've been in West Marin in the past 25 years has all been fed from springs. Which means you're in that lovely situation of when your tank's full and you're not using lots of water, it overflows onto the land and goes back into the stream. So I think...
And isn't Inverness the same way, that the water is from springs, and so therefore there's no storage of it? So
there is storage, yeah.
Oh, there is?
Oh, yeah, they have tanks all over the place. Oh, yeah. They're putting new ones in. Replacing the old redwood ones. Yeah.
So, but if you're living where you're spring fed, and that way you use it when it's there and don't worry about it, and then when it's not, it's a different system.
One of them was actually a creek-fed water supply, which used to get pretty low during the summer. So, you still conserve it. You're still not using the vast amounts. Apparently, L.A. families, two L.A. families average 326,000 gallons a year.
Whoa.
That's 1 acre foot. Oh, here's a statistic with lots of numbers. In the past 55 years, California has pumped 80 million acre feet more than can be naturally replenished.
Oh, my God.
That's about, an acre foot is about 326,000 gallons. So they've overpumped more than 27 trillion gallons that cannot be replenished in time before you start using it again.
Oh, dear.
Some of these aquifers take more than one lifetime to replenish, and we're, 2/3 of global water goes to agriculture, of course. So what's happening is, as the aquifers get pumped down in agricultural areas, the salts get drawn into the aquifer, especially here. Salt water gets drawn into the aquifer.
Fresh water.
And then that, of course, kills, they irrigate with that, and it kills the land. So
that's happening all over Florida.
All over the world.
Yeah, with sea level rise, the salt water's coming inland and getting into the aquifers. So even before the water covers the land, it's killing and salting out.
Yeah. So conservation, what do you do to conserve water? There you go. Do you not flush twice?
Right.
Flush twice?
We
What's that?
Remember pro-degradation? Flush twice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when I remember back in high school, I had a friend, and she had a little sign over her toilet that says, "If it's brown, flush it down. Yeah. If it's yellow, let it mellow."
Right. Good conservation technique for everyone. You just have to keep up on the cleaning of the bowl to prevent the mineral buildup in the bowl. That's the only problem with that one. I used to live in Hawaii, and we were solely on rain catchment. We had big redwood tanks that took water off the roof, and that was real conservation territory. And my landlady's, one of her main things was to tip the ice from her cocktails into the flower planters around the house.
Excellent. Depends on what I don't know how my plants would like gin ice. It does, being able to have a gray water system. I wish that we had it where we are, because I think about how much, just when you're washing the dishes or taking a shower, that water could go. And I do try to. The other thing is, like, running the hot water till it gets hot enough to do something. I keep 2 watering cans now in the kitchen.
Good.
So when I'm doing that, trying to get hot water, I just let it run into the cans until I, have what I need. But I remember watching, when I first watched the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth with David Bowie, and he had left his planet because they were running out of water. And so ever since I've seen that movie, if I stay in the shower more than a few minutes, I think of David Bowie and The Man Who Fell to Earth, and I get out of the shower. I'm like, oh my God, we're just standing in water, and it's like, it's so precious.
I think that brings up a good point, is that it's another one of those things in our lives that is got a certain amount of mystery and visibility. We don't really physically see where it comes from and where it goes to when we get rid of it.
It comes out of where does water come from? Out of the faucet.
Yeah, right. And there's so many things in our world that are just hard to imagine the reality of, and so therefore hard to come to terms with them.
Especially out here, maybe, people are more aware of
I think we're more aware because of the ranching and the dairies and our wells. And
in urban communities, in cities? I
don't think so.
And let's see, what percentage is it now? It's more than 55% of people live in cities now. So.
Although they say that by people living in cities, then if you can enact infrastructure and systems that are very conservation oriented, you can have a bigger impact, and that it's easier to work with people living in cities because you concentrate it and shift the infrastructure. But you think about Cape Town, South Africa, wasn't it just last year that they were days away from, they had a 3-year drought, and they're still struggling with that.
So I'd be curious to find out how much water could be saved by changing out your flushing toilet to a composting toilet or something like that.
I think that would be a lot of water. Being able, our whole aversion to composting is something we need to get over. And there's some really nice composting toilets, and I don't think people realize.
Are they legal?
And I don't think they are.
Oh, like to install it instead of a flushing toilet?
I think it depends on where you are.
Give us a call, won't you, if you know if it's legal or not to have a composting toilet. I know there are places here that have composting toilets.
And what's the name of the man who created that environment, like this completely sustainable environment in either San Rafael or Fairfax, but he got in trouble for it?
Oh, in Fairfax. His name went out of my head.
I've forgotten.
Yeah, that they're trying to take it all down.
Yeah. And it seemed like such an amazing experiment in sustainability.
Is it David Hoffman or something like that?
Yeah, I think
that sounds right.
Yeah.
And of course, in some places, actually, just recently, Colorado made it legal for people to catch rain off their roofs and use it for irrigation. Before that,
it was illegal.
I
think it's illegal
if you had a rain barrel,
around here in areas too.
It may be,
because there's a big deal about that.
We really need to look at those kind of laws and
because they're saying you're away from Nestle, but you're basically
Colorado has very strict allotment laws, regulations of water. It's not like, I'm upstream, so I get more. It's all about how long people have had the right to have water. So farmers downstream have more right to the water than somebody living on the slopes of the Rockies.
Yeah.
Because they have the right. Caller, I know you're there, but I just have to do the half-hour thing here. This is KWMR 90.5 station, Point Reyes Station, 89.9 Bolinas, 92.3 in San Geronimo Valley. Please stay on the line, caller. And I'd like to thank some more underwriters. The Point Reyes Light, an independent and locally owned newspaper telling West Marin's stories since 1948, featuring award-winning reporting, essays, opinions, a community events calendar, and the sheriff's calls. Office and newsroom open Monday through Thursday in downtown Inverness. Subscription, classifieds, calendar, and advertising information, plus letter to the editor forms are available at ptreyslight.com. That's PTREYES light.com, or at 415-669-1200. And Smiley's Schooner Saloon and Hotel in Bolinas is the oldest bar west of the Mississippi and is a proud supporter of KWMR. Established in 1851, Smiley's offers newly refurbished accommodations, libations, music and community entertainment, event listings, advance tickets, and hotel booking information online at smileysaloon.com. That's SMILEYS saloon.com. And we're also supported by To Celebrate Life Breast Cancer Foundation, raising funds to help underserved women and men living with breast cancer. Through its Bay Area Breast Cancer Grants Program, the foundation supports nonprofits that provide direct and emergency services and believes that no one should face breast cancer alone. Information about how to get involved is available at tocelebratelife.org. And caller, are you still there? If you are, you're on the air. Oh, hello there.
Hi, it's MK.
Hi, MK.
Hello.
My daughter here that I live with is planning to build a tiny house in the backyard, and she has been looking into the possibilities of composting toilet rather than dealing with the sewage lines and stuff around here. It's horribly expensive to get from a new place to the main lines, and all of the main lines in our neighborhood anyway are giving up because they're 100 years old and they're made of old pipes and everything's collapsing. So we have that issue too. But there are a lot of regulations and there's a lot of foot dragging going on about composting toilets. So that part of it I do know about. We have 5 or 6 rain barrels that we use to water the garden. And you think that I'm in Seattle, but it doesn't rain in the summertime. It gets really, really dry. So that's very, very helpful. There's a lot of RainWise, the company that is helping people to turn their properties into more conservative as far as the water goes. But what I wanted to tell you is that I have a really good friend who is involved in providing water systems to some of the South Pacific islands that are really suffering from climate change and the water rising. And what they're doing is using solar desalination units. They're installing them to provide, because the ocean, I mean, there's a lot of water there. And so that's in the works, too, which is a very positive thing. Yeah.
So this is in, like, the old trust territories or somewhere? And down
like Guam and Palau and those islands.
Lovely.
What he's majorly involved in.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to go through all the bureaucratic mumbo-jumbo about getting grants and money and so forth and getting these things supported.
Well, and also there's the effects of desalinization is that you have a lot of salt left over, and you think you can just pump it back in, but it creates big salt zones.
I don't know how they're handling that, but I will ask. I will find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. There are a lot of people that are working on it. It just seems to me that desalinization is an obvious choice, especially if it's solar, because you're in the South Pacific and it's sunny.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Yes, because only 0.3% of all... No, what is it? 3% of all water on the Earth is not saline, is fresh water. That's all.
Yeah.
97% is salt water.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know what we do with all the salt. Build a pillar. Don't look at it or something.
Don't look back.
Ha, ha, ha. Don't look back.
Find another use for salt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that somebody can come up with something.
Yeah.
Make a buck.
Well, thank you, MK.
Sure.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Good day, you guys.
You too.
Oh, yes. I just looked
415-663-8492. Give us a call. Let us know, are composting toilets legal in the county of Marin?
Yeah, because I admit we do. There's a little cabin on the back of the property where we rent, and for the cabin we do have it's like a little outhouse with a composting toilet there that, depending on, when people are staying there or not. But so I don't know if that's legal. And
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know they've got one out at Commonweal Garden.
And I know at Big Mesa,
it works perfectly.
Where Aaron Lusich put in for where they do their dance and work and stuff out there. Really nice. He actually built a really nice, quote unquote, bathroom with 2 composting toilets, and there's no smell. It's it's very.
When it's done properly, it's better than
and think about all the water you would save.
Yes,
even with, especially a family.
So what would be the theory behind making it illegal?
I think people are so afraid
Public
of
health.
human poop. I mean, they're like, excrement is so freaky to people.
Public health regulation. I mean, people probably wouldn't want to use. Most people wouldn't want to use them anyway, because, as you say,
That
that's
that fear of
thing about
excrement.
oh, don't want to see it or deal with it in any way, or stir it up or keep it. But no, it's public health regulations. They just don't. They haven't. As far as I know, they haven't got around to figuring out how to deal with all that. How do you make sure that someone's doing their composting
correctly? And that is the thing too. Is
not creating
when
health hazards.
when we've been using that, there are things that you must do.
So it needs to
deal
be
with
some
it.
kind of fail-safe mechanism
Well, I'm
for.
sure that's what the county would prefer.
Yeah.
Or you could even have where you could have, say, a service that services them. So if you want to have one, then you would have this. The county would require
like
you
a
to
diaper
use that
service.
service. Yeah, that comes around and puts the extra whatever you need on it. And
I'm sure
I
Mike
think lime
Gimona
and
would
stuff.
be on top of that if there were enough composting toilets. He'd be on the job, on the circuit.
So when we were talking, just to let the listeners know about, it was David Hoffman. He's in Lagunitas. He's my neighbor. And his place is called The Last Resort. And if you want to find out about it, it's called the website is thelastresortlagunitas.org. But it's a fascinating place. It has a lot of pictures and stuff of what he's done there to make this complete, like you said, like ecosystem of his own.
Because it's completely unpermitted. Somebody turned him in, or
Yeah.
I guess somebody turned him in. That happens now and then. So I guess I shouldn't have mentioned the composting toilet by the cabin.
Oh, what toilet?
Let's see.
toilet? That's
Where do you
gone,
live
that's
again?
gone.
You're
I
in
don't know.
Inverness, aren't you?
I live in Fairfax.
Fairfax. Oh, that's right. So, of course, and then there's the pollution problem. Oh, and global warming problem, of course. Climate change is creating algae blooms everywhere, up and down the coast, far north as like Ohio and in the Great Lakes, of course.
And high bacterial counts. There's another. My dad keeps sending me these articles because when I go back home now, it's like, do not go crabbing, do not go fishing. You get a little scratch.
Flesh-eating
the
bacteria.
flesh-eating bacteria is just going gangbusters. And so it's really
Well-
easy, a little scratch. And then it's like they
Maybe
call it
that's-
choose limbs or your life. You end up having to have all your limbs amputated. So my dad's like, because I really miss fishing. And Daddy goes, yeah, you're going to look good with no arms and legs. So, so there's this, the change in the, also there's a certain amoeba that's growing more that'll go in through your ears if you're swimming in
no.
freshwater lakes. And
Oh, dear.
So it's really changing the climate change and with what's going on, changing how we can access our waters.
Wow.
And be in
Of
our
course,
waters.
there is good news. There's always good news. There
Please,
are people
please.
working hard to.
Let's hear it.
There's in highly erodible soils. There are people working on these in the Midwest, where it's nice and flat and it's very erodible soil. So when there's a big rain, it all kind of just rushes off. They are doing grass waterways where they're basically doing sort of riparian areas, but in this case it's a grass area down the gullies. So you don't plow up the gullies, the natural gullies that have always been there. You plant grass in them, and then you harvest around them, whatever you're growing.
And you can also see that they're doing that in like holistic management of cattle, that where creeks and where other troughs are, they plant grasses in there so that there's no raw earth where people used to have a trough or a...
And more good news is that up in Vermont, stands of red spruce trees are coming back thanks to environmental pollution controls. The acid rain is no longer killing the spruce forests in Vermont. They're coming back.
Wow.
Yay.
Good news.
Mother
See?
Nature is resilient.
But of course, that was then, and we are living in the now. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please? Hello, caller. You're on.
Yes, this is Stuart Ruddick.
Hi, Stuart.
Thank you for being here and talking about these issues. I was a little bit late, so I'm not sure if I missed this, but have you talked about the importance of the water that we are drinking, and the fact that most of the water that we're drinking, because we have defiled it, has required us to therefore purify it, and in the purification process, the issues that we've got in particularly the developed world with chlorine and in America fluoride, how detrimental that is to our health. Have you talked about that one issue? And then the second issue was about the frequency or vitality of water being alive again versus it being dead.
Oh.
We have not.
Well, now, tell us more about that.
Yeah, we haven't talked about either one of those. I mean, we briefly touched on there's no fluoride here in West Marin, but there is in the Marin Municipal Water District water. But the live water thing is a fascinating topic to me.
Yeah. Well, one, so I've been passionate about water most of my life, and in the last year have been really focused on researching and starting to understand the drinking water. And I mean, we all know that the chlorine and the fluoride is toxic, and there's people that are focused on trying to change the fluoride and getting that removed from our water. We're one of the few countries in the developed world that does fluoridate our water. Most everyone else doesn't because of the toxicity of it. And there's a whole group fluoride network that's focused on that, which I think hopefully they're going to have some more success. They've done some movies about it, and the science is all there to say that it is toxic. And the reason that it's been put in our water is from a 1950s study done on cavities, and at that time maybe there was some validity to it, but it's definitely not valid today.
So that would be the argument for fluoride. People who support the fluoride in your water is that it's good for children's teeth. Isn't that is that the case they make?
Well, it wasn't specifically. Maybe in the 50s the study was more about children for cavities, but it was really for everyone for cavities, and that has many studies have been done, and they're well publicized, showing that that's actually not even accurate.
Interesting.
The study that was done was only one study, and that many studies have been done since showing that by fluoridating and looking at communities that have had fluoridated water, and the communities that haven't had fluoridated water, actually many of the communities that haven't had fluoridated water, the teeth of children and adults have been healthier than with the fluoridation. So,
why do you think it's so hard to get them to stop putting the fluoride in when they've got these studies right in front of them?
Money. Lobbying.
Because the people selling the fluoride are making a lot of money.
It's an industrial byproduct.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so
it never ends, does it?
Yeah, it's Occidental Petroleum and Alcan were the largest suppliers of this. It was a toxic waste product, which they had to pay to take away and bury, and now they are paid to take it and put it in our water.
In the water. And part of the problem is that it's you're not regulating dosages. The more water you drink, the more fluoride you're getting, and chlorine, of course.
Well, and another unknown fact about water is the fact that when we're always thinking about, well, how much water do we get in our bodies from drinking the water? Well, what's needs to be communicated, and something that I'm working actively on, is the fact that water in the shower, because our skin is the largest tissue in our body, that we ingest water through our skin, particularly in a shower, and the numbers are mixed anywhere from a half a gallon to over a gallon per shower of water is brought into our body through our skin.
Yeah, I can't say I ever thought about that.
So that's one critical issue. And then the second is because of the heat and vapor or mist and gas that occurs in a shower, we actually are ingesting it not just through our skin, but through our mouth and nose.
Breathing it.
And the amount of ingestion of, call it both the chlorine and fluoride in the shower is anywhere from 10 to 100 times more than you're getting by drinking water.
Wow.
So most people don't even think about what they're doing in the shower, and they're putting filters on all of their drinking, but then they're going to the shower and they're getting so much more. So I'm actually working on this and planning on and pretty close to coming out with a product that's going to not only purify the water in a shower, but also then add back in the issues which with the other issue I was talking about bringing back vitality into water.
So what does that entail?
Yeah.
What's the vitality of water?
So looking at and thinking about water, that when you look at the bottled water industry, it started in Europe and started with companies like Evian that were bringing mountain water, which was the purest water on the planet because it hadn't been defiled by whether air, water, soil, industrial pollution. And that it was all seen as an elixir for people's health. And, Lourdes and the other special waters in Europe that people went to for healing were because they were these special waters that not only were pure, but they also had very high properties of minerals, vitamins, and what's called frequency or ionic activity and energy that's in water. So water, just like plants, have energy that can be measured. What is the energy level of that water? And it can be shown that some waters have energy, and water, once it is purified and gone through a process, has no energy. There's no frequency in it. It is, quote, dead water.
Huh.
Wow.
So, Stuart, is that also when they talk about, like, water that's coming, like mountain water, or water that's gone through a creek and it's had movement in it? Is that part of that?
It's a very big part of that. So there's a brilliant man who's no longer with us who was a Bavarian named Victor Schauberger, who lived in the late 1800s and mid-1900s. And he was a naturalist that studied water. And what he studied and understood was the movement of water and the spherical movement of water through both the two things of centripetal and centrifugal water. We're turning inwards and outwards. And by doing so, that movement created frequency and energy in the water, which made it vital. So when you look at, and you just look at like a river or a stream, and when you see, where do the fish live? The fish live in the areas where there is movement, and they're hanging out because there's movement energy there. There's also other food for them to eat there. But in the still parts of waters and rivers, the fish don't live and stay there because there isn't a lot of food that's there. So you need the energy and movement of water to continually create that frequency and movement, which brings oxygen, and it brings ionic activity, which is essentially hydrogen, is the active ingredient that infuses water with energy. And so, yeah, it's an area that I've been researching heavily and working on, looking at bringing products to people that will enliven the water that we're all drinking, which you can take tap water and you can re-energize and enliven tap water from our homes that can, one, take out the chlorine and take out the fluoride and take out the pharmaceuticals and other heavy metals, and then add back in. So what you need to add back in, which nature does, is vitamins and minerals. So water flows over rocks, and when it does so, it takes the minerals and vitamins from rocks and brings that into the water. And then it brings that electrical ionic charge, which is so vital for our lives, because when you look at our bodies, we're 70% water. Mm-hmm. And when you think about we as human beings, we came from the water. And as babies, we were born in the amniotic fluid, which is water. Mm-hmm. And the fact that when we start as a baby, we have 85% of our body is water. And as we age, we get down to around 60 or 65%, so we dry up. Uh-oh. And what needs to happen is we need to keep our cells hydrated. Yeah. And when our cells are not hydrated, they dry up, and they are not as effective and healthy to fight disease, bacteria, and metals and of course stress and
so you would think that if you're going to hydrate, what your position would be is that if you're going to hydrate, you need to hydrate with living water rather than just plain filtered water that may not have the toxics in it but has been basically rendered useless by the filtration process.
Yes.
Ah.
Wow.
Because I know my husband and I, we're drinking distilled water, and we get trace minerals that we include every day.
Oh.
Because when we moved from Marshall, where we were on fabulous well water, to where we live now. I don't want to say because of the illegal composting toilet now. But anyway, the first night I was there, we had this giant bathtub. I was so excited. And it was in the winter. And I turned on the water and closed the door, turned on the little heater in the bathroom to have a nice big bath. And I went back in a few minutes later, and I opened the door, and it was just hit with a cloud of the smell of Clorox.
Chlorine.
And I was like, because I hadn't had water with chlorine in it in so long. And I called Marin Municipal Water District to say something was wrong with our water, blah, blah, blah. And they said, oh, no, it's just you live close to the water processing facility. And so you get more of the chlorine. And I was like, this is horrible.
Not okay.
So now if I want to take a bath there, because I have a fish pond, there's something you put in the water to make the chloramine not impact the fish when you have to add water.
Right.
So I put that in my bathtub if I even take a bath there. But we've been trying to research filters for.
Yeah, Stuart, what kind
system.
of filter takes out chlorine and fluoride? Stuart, hello.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, Stuart's gone. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for calling. I think charcoal takes it out, right?
I think. I think you have to have two different kinds of filters because I think you can't find one. I couldn't find one that did both.
Well, and also you're talking about the water tanks that these municipal water supply places, not Inverness, let me say. I don't know anything about the Inverness supply. But municipal, they do chlorinate a lot, and they dump it into these huge multi-million gallon tanks, right? Or several of them, and everything kind of settles into layers.
Oh, maybe
the water and the chlorine kind of settle out into layers and into temperature gradients. So there is a company called Pax Scientific that has a little gadget that creates spirals in water. It's a little tiny impeller that's solar powered, and it can get the water in. It can mix the water in one of these 1,000,000-gallon tanks within like half a day. The whole thing is just turning and spinning, and you don't have to chlorinate so much. Interesting. Hi, caller. You are on the air. What's your name, please?
Sorry, this is Stuart.
Stuart. Hi.
Oh, Stuart.
We were asking you a question about filters. What kind of filters you recommend
for like a shower or a bath?
Yeah, well, there's many filters on the market. There's ceramic ball filters, there's carbon, there's coconut husk, there's KDF. There's a lot. I think for me and my belief is that we want to stay away from a lot of the ceramic balls that have plastics in them that are microplastics. So I would be avoiding those. I think KDF is a good filter that I think is wise to use. I think carbon is also good and safe, and I think that the coconut filter is also good. The thing about filtering, as I said, is important, but then you also, I think, should be considering, not just filtering the water, but then adding back nutrients and vitamins into the water. And we're just in the midst of, we're about to come to market with one in the next 3 months.
All right.
And we've been working on designing for the last year that is going to provide the filtration, but then we'll add back in vitamins and minerals back into the water particularly for a shower filter that will, be good for your skin and your hair.
Very good.
What's the name of your company?
Well, I have a fund called Mindful Investors, where I fund a lot of companies and innovations all focused on health and wellness. And that's sort of the entity that I do most of my investments and help with companies. So, Mindful Investors. We've got investments in, we have a company called Soma, which is a water purification company, and a company called Flow Water, which is an extraordinary machine that purifies water. So we're actively involved with lots
So-
of companies in the water industry.
The products are out there. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Stuart.
much for calling. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate being awakened to the idea of the water really coming in through my skin.
And breathing it.
Sure.
Wow.
All of that, yeah.
Thank you, Stuart.
The things we don't think about.
There you are. So, UV, everybody.
Oh, yeah, that's what you guys used.
I
with the creek
installed
water.
with spring water too. So you need
What's
to
UV?
filter.
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's a little UV treatment, so the water flows past a UV light, and it
kills bacteria. And
it basically kills bacteria. I mean, it doesn't kill them right there, but it's a way of taking the bacteria out of the water from a spring, because our springs are basically open up there. So, yeah.
All right.
Fabulous. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you to our callers. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Paul and Shelley.
And the views expressed the opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. This has been Let's Talk Water, and we'll be back next Thursday at 11. Thanks, everybody, and especially thanks to our callers. Bye for now.